If I may ask everyone, please to take a seat. We're soon getting started. If you have a drink, please take it with you and take a seat. We're soon getting started. Buonasera. Hello. My name is Andreas Tonhauser, and it's an honor and a pleasure tonight to be your host. This is part of our Roman Nights event series also tonight, where we want to talk about the Jubilee. And tonight is a special night because we're not only welcoming many people who have come to one of those events before, and there are many familiar faces, and thank you so much for coming again, but also new faces, and actually from around Europe. For all of you who are not familiar with EWTN, we are a global Catholic network. We're broadcasting into 460 million TV households worldwide, several hundred radio stations, one newspaper, and also 14 media outlets here in Europe, and many more across the world are taking our content, not only here from the Vatican Bureau, but also, of course, from many other places where content is produced. And it's a special honor for me tonight also to welcome my boss, our CEO and chairman of the board, and his wonderful wife, Jacqueline Warsaw is here as well, and Michael Warsaw. And I just ask you if you would briefly share a few remarks with us since you're here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Andreas. It's just a privilege to be with you as always. And I want to start out, first of all, by thanking you. It was really kind of your initiative and your thought leadership that led to the development of Roman Nights, and this is a regular feature of our Vatican Bureau here, which I think is a very, very important part of the work of this office within the EWTN global family. So I want to just add to Andreas's word of welcome to welcome those of you who are from nearby, who join us from the Roman community and thereabouts, and those of you who've come for the events that we will be having over the next several days as part of the EWTN European group. And we're very, very happy and delighted that you could all be with us this evening. I think it's particularly important for us this evening to hear about the Jubilee and to consider this great Jubilee that's going to be beginning in just a few weeks. And it's an important moment in the life of the church, one that doesn't come very often, and one that has, I think, the potential to bring profound blessings to the universal church. And EWTN and our team here at the Vatican will be part of that, and bringing coverage of all of the events of the Jubilee as they unfold over the coming year, and be integrally involved in these events of the Jubilee and these moments in the life of the church. So I think it's particularly fitting that we have this event tonight to talk about the Jubilee and what it means in the life of the church. So I know you don't want to hear me. You didn't come to hear me. You came to hear our panel, who just wonderful. We're very blessed to have all of you here. So again, I welcome you. I thank you. I thank you for your support of EWTN in whatever way that is. And I hope you enjoy this evening with us. Thank you. God bless you.
Michael, thank you so much. Thank you also. Michael is here in Rome, not only for Roman Nights, but also he's hosting friends and supporters from all over Europe who will be meeting here over the next days in this beautiful city, and also discuss with us a little bit about evangelization, about hope, also for this continent. So thank you also all of you who are here to have come to participate in this meeting. Roman Nights wants to bring people together, and Rome is a perfect place for this because a lot of experts, influencers, people with interesting stories come through here or live here. And that's why we thought, in a world that is increasingly polarized, it is important to bring people together, people of diverse backgrounds, and have a conversation. Not so much a discussion, but a conversation. And this is exactly what we also want to do tonight, looking at the Jubilee 2025, something that will be, as Michael also said, very, very important for us as a network to transport this out into the world so that all of those who intend to come know what they're getting themselves into, and we'll speak about this in a second, but also those who might not be able to come to be able to participate and to really bring the eternal word, to bring the gospel to all the ends of the earth. Allow me now to introduce to you our esteemed panel. Let me start maybe here in the middle. Professor Anita Cadavid is the director of the Institute for Advanced Studies on Women of the Pontifical University Regina Apostolorum. She also heads a very important working group, Value at Work. And she is also known for organizing conferences about such topics as female doctors of the church and patron saints of Europe. She'll share with us what she has planned for the Jubilee. Next to her is Rolando Treber. He's an official of the Dicastery for the Evangelization, whose pro-prefect, Archbishop Rino Fisichella, has been entrusted by Pope Francis with the responsibility of planning and overseeing the celebrations for the Jubilee year 2025. He works there for the English section and has also a background in working with church communities for evangelization. And last but not least, Frank Rocca, a longtime Vatican correspondent for many publications, but especially for the Wall Street Journal, and now a senior Vatican analyst for EWTN News. Please help me welcome this esteemed panel with a warm round of applause. Thank you very much. Maybe let me start with you, Rolando. You're working with the Dicastery for Evangelization. Tonight, actually, you're substituting for Archbishop Fisichella, who wanted to be with us, but for very good reason, he had to cancel last minute. And so I'm even more thankful that you found the time to be with us and also represented the Dicastery here, which was tasked with organizing the Jubilee. Where do we stand on the preparations?
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. The preparations are, of course, very much underway. We're at the doorstep. If the Jubilee is marked by the opening of a holy door, we're right at the doorstep. So there's a lot of work that has already been done. You see, looking around Rome, so many construction sites, and the work is progressing. The city's getting ready. You know, it can be kind of annoying for a lot of tourists, I've heard, even just walking around Rome. But it's getting ready. The city, along with us and all the pilgrims that will come here for what will be a great event, with the theme, of course, being Pilgrims of Hope, an event full of hope. An ordinary Jubilee that, as you already know, it's only celebrated every 25 years. So, it'll be a great occasion for people to have a good, strong encounter with the Lord.
Could you tell us maybe a little bit more about this topic, Pilgrims of Hope?
Of course, yeah. So the Jubilee is very focused on pilgrimage, and it's one of the defining factors that from the very first Jubilee in the year 1300 was present. So pilgrimage means, again, it's central to the Jubilee. And so it's kind of espousing the concept of pilgrim and the current situation we're living in as a society and as a church, with a need for hope. We're in a time where we need hope. We need a light. We need good news. we need that. So that's kind of the thought behind that, and it's meant to bring in each pilgrim to internalize this concept of being on a pilgrimage, coming to Rome to encounter this hope that is ultimately in Christ. So, yeah.
Hope that is ultimately in Christ. Anita, you're an academic, and you shared with me beforehand that actually you have some concrete plans how to use also the Jubilee to introduce this to students, to people who are interested also in engaging with the Jubilee, but also with what you're usually teaching on.
First of all, thank you for having me here this night. And yes, we are preparing, well, as Pope Francis says, we need to build bridges. And I think that here in Rome, we have lots of opportunities for doing that. And in my field of study, I mean, we professors and scholars should build bridges so that people can learn more and can get to know our history and all that is hidden in the big treasure that we find here in Rome. So we are offering, well, as our university is offering a course for undergrads that study in our university network. It's a network that is composed by 14 universities around the globe. And the idea is to bring them here and not only just teach them about person, transcendence, and humanism, but let them live the Rome experience. Now that we make, well, thank God, everything online, but this is a great opportunity to come here and see with your own eyes the wonderful places that have marked our history as Christians and as members of this Western civilization.
What are some of the places that you will visit here in Rome with the students?
Well, the St. Peter's, the Roman forums, the catacombs, and also what we could say is the pagan Rome, but also that this pagan Rome has lots of teachings. The monument to Vittorio Emanuele, and well, Piazza Venezia, and so on.
And do you think the Jubilee will drive interest as well?
I think so, because the date of this course ends just before the Jubilee for the young people begin. So it's like the perfect opportunity also for them to continue this Rome experience with an encounter with the Pope.
Wonderful. Frank, you've been covering the Vatican for many, many years, for secular media, for mainstream media, as an observer of things that are happening in the Eternal City. How is the Jubilee seen, let's say, not from a Catholic perspective, but from the world in the mainstream media?
Well, I saw first of all, thank you. I'm very glad to be here, and this is a great occasion. But I saw an article earlier this week in a very big American daily, which I won't name, but it was about the Jubilee, and it said that the Jubilee is a rare Catholic tradition when believers can have their sins forgiven, which as we were saying, it's true as far as it goes. But
Close, but
yeah, I think it's a teaching opportunity because I mean you're talking about some 30 million people that are expected pilgrims, right? But of course, Rome, as we know, year round is full of tourists and who are not necessarily Catholic, or they might be Catholic, but they're not here in pilgrimage mode, let's say. And you know, I remember some years ago there was right outside St. Peter's Square, and there was a massive canonization that was underway. And somebody said to me, "What's going on? What is this?" And I said, "Well, the Pope is going to declare new saints." And this woman said, "Well, what are they?" He calls them up and says, "You are a saint." And I said, "No, they're long dead." But but it's quite seriously. I think. You know, one thing, for example, that I find particularly interesting is the indulgence, the plenary indulgence that the Pope grants. For anybody, there are certain conditions, as we know. You don't necessarily have to make a pilgrimage to Rome. Every diocese has some kind of shrine or the cathedral where someone can go, and there are certain other conditions, including, you know, confessing and receiving communion and then you receive the remission of all temporal punishment due to sins that have been forgiven, which is sounds simple, but but I think for many of us, including for myself, it can be a hard concept to grasp. I remember when I was little, we had a Bible that was a pre-Vatican II edition, and it said, you know, if you read this Bible for however many minutes a day, you'll receive X number of years off of purgatory. And I know that since the late 60s, when Paul VI changed that, and the Church doesn't explain things in terms of years off of purgatory anymore, that's seen as, and of course we have historically the association of indulgences, especially when it comes to Rome, is of course with the scandal of selling indulgences in the 16th century, which became a trigger for the Protestant Reformation and in order to build the new St. Peter's. So there's all this baggage with indulgences, and of course the Church now tries to explain them in a different way as an opportunity for healing, for the injury that sin leaves behind, even when it's been forgiven. But I think this is not a simple concept, and I think this will be an interesting issue, for an opportunity to explain this doctrine of the Church.
is that, Rolando, is that seen as an opportunity? Like Frank explained, it's not always so easy for somebody who's not really Catholic and involved also, or understands the teaching. Will the Jubilee be for you also, for the Dicastery, be an opportunity to reach out and to also explain a little bit more of faith?
Yeah, I think there's a reason why the Pope entrusted the Dicastery for evangelization with organizing the Jubilee, because it is a great opportunity for evangelization and for reaching out to help explain the faith, but also just the message of the gospel. So, of course, it'll be a great opportunity to learn more about what it means to receive indulgence. I think most of the focus is on receiving mercy, because a Jubilee is focused on receiving mercy, on really internalizing this repentance, but as a desire to start a new life, and the indulgence being kind of you can think of it as a fresh start, kind of like when you go to confession, but a very powerful sign through a crossing of the holy door or visiting a holy site, whether in Rome or in other places in the world.
A fresh start, is that not also connected to this biblical meaning also of the Jubilee, to this historical notion of the holy years?
Yes. So the Jubilee has its roots in ancient Judaism, as you see in the Old Testament, what used to be called the year of the Yobel, which is the year of the goat or of the ram. It would be announced with the sounding of a ram's horn to announce every 50 years a year of coming back to God. So from there, that's kind of where it's got its theological origins from the Old Testament. And then in the first Jubilee, it was the people of Rome that kind of asked for it. They asked for it to have an opportunity to have a solid symbol, something concrete, a concrete way to come back to God.
Anita, maybe also for you, is there a personal meaning for you also to the Jubilee?
Well, I think that it's a spiritual pilgrimage. We have this whole history about the Jubilees, but I think that it's an opportunity to deepen our faith. And in this time of polarization and so on, it's an opportunity to deepen our faith and to share our faith with others. Not only discussing and having big moments of academic discussions, but coming together and praying together. I think that for me that's the most important thing. And in that way, we open our hearts and our souls for the mercy of our Lord, that it's the great opportunity of the Jubilee.
Frank, do you see also a unifying factor maybe in the Jubilee, the church coming together?
Well, I think, practically speaking, and people will be coming from all over the world and rubbing shoulders, quite literally in many cases. And so, yes, I imagine that it will be, what you see happen every few years in World Youth Day. You'll see this over the course of an entire year. Obviously, pilgrims come all the time, but in this case, there'll be a much higher level of excitement, I'm sure, and focus. And so I should think it will be a chance for people to meet other Catholics from all over the world.
Pilgrims and maybe also tourists, but especially pilgrims who come to Rome because of their faith. You've been living in the city for a long time now, and you've been also observing this. Has pilgrimage in a way, or have pilgrims changed? Do you notice something different now?
Well, I think, certainly, just as it's been having with people of all kinds who traveling around in general, there is just much more of it. Especially we see it now in the post-COVID so-called revenge tourism or whatever. You see there's just so many people, but it's so cheap. When I was young, a long time ago, it was very expensive to fly around Europe. Now people come, and so I think that's obviously made it much more. The scale is just not comparable than it was, a few decades ago. And I think also, the technology, information technology, and it has made things easier. Especially Rome is an ancient, sublimely beautiful city, but not an easy city. And so technology offers a way to facilitate some things and makes it a little more efficient. And I know that we'll be talking a little bit about the Carlo Acutis and the digital aspect of this for young people, but I think that's changed things.
That's changed things. Before I come to my next question, maybe also we have prepared a microphone if our audience wants to participate in this. So this conversation should not only stay here on the panel, but also if you have questions for the panel, please do make yourself known by raising your hand, and I hope I have somebody helping me bringing the microphone to you. So please think of something. But meanwhile, maybe stay on this. I remember when I was here in the year 2000 as a pilgrim for World Youth Day, for the Jubilee of the Youth. We'll have the same event also next year in summer again. And it was very, very impressive. At the same time, I also remember that it was so hot that we really didn't know how to make our way here from St. Peter's out to Tor Vergata, which is outside of Rome almost. And also the next Jubilee of the Youth, the main Mass will be celebrated there. But everything worked. There was the firefighters who hosed us down with water, and we got other water. So it was flexible. Rolando, maybe also from your perspective, is Rome ready for all those pilgrims coming?
Yeah, definitely. I think, of course, like
very
Frank was
optimistic.
I know. Well, you have to be in situations
it's
like
the
this.
Jubilee of Hope.
Yes, exactly. As Frank was saying, I think there will be definitely places where you're rubbing shoulders with other people. But nonetheless, I say to pilgrims that want to come or are undecided because Rome will be really busy, it happens every 25 years. It's a great opportunity to still come and experience something tangible, So, I do think Rome will be ready. There's a lot of work around the city, like I said earlier, meant to facilitate this flow of pilgrims, to facilitate this reception from the city of Rome to the world. So yeah.
Ready, and I don't think we need to be afraid of also inviting people here, right? Anita, what is your take on this? Is Rome a safe city?
Well, I would say so. Right now, it's a little bit difficult to go around, but hopefully everything will be ready. And well, I know lots of people who are planning to come, and I think it is worth it. Even if you get to a place rubbing shoulders and so on, I think this jubilee is worth it. So, yeah, I know lots of people who are saving money and looking for pensions, hotels, even in Frosinone, so they can find a place
Which
to.
is quite far away.
Yeah, quite far away, but a place to stay for a couple of days. So, and this is exciting, don't you think?
Oh yeah, no, we think it's very exciting, especially for us. We've planned a lot of live coverages and a lot of reporting on this in many languages. So, absolutely. Do we have any questions already? It's really hard to tell with the lights here. So I'm looking. You have we have one question here. The microphone is finding its way to you. Wonderful.
I'm breaking the ice. Turn on, or? Yes. Thank you very much for the opportunity being here. I think the Jubilee is a great opportunity for pilgrims coming to Rome and enjoying and having an amazing experience about mercy and forgiveness. But what I really want to know is what's the strategy, because as far as I'm concerned, a lot of people are coming and reading about the Jubilee, but they do not really know what is it actually about. What can we receive? What do we get in the Jubilee? So especially if you consume media that are secular, not close to the church, are writing sometimes a little bit of nonsense. What's the Jubilee is actually about? So what's the strategy that for the media that how people that people get involved and informed what's the Jubilee actually about and what they can receive in Rome and here and being at the church?
Please, also to everybody, Rolando, maybe for you, but also Frank or Anita, if you want to respond.
Yeah, I can start. It's a great question. I think something that hasn't been mentioned yet is the Jubilee has so many events throughout the year. There's around 30. I don't remember the exact number right now, but it's meant to be to encompass everybody, to bring everybody in, to have a Jubilee for everybody. You know, even in our office, sometimes with the younger folks, we'll be joking around. There's a Jubilee for everything, and we'll make up a Jubilee, and you know. But
did you do that?
No. No, I didn't. No, but there's a Jubilee for everyone, and that's very intentional. You know, there's an intentionality behind the calendar, which you can find easily on the website for the Jubilee. And there you see, there's a Jubilee for migrants, there's a Jubilee for armed forces, Jubilee for the elderly, for the sick, for children, etc. So I think that is one of the things that's important to put our focus on, that there's these events that last, some of them for a day, some of them a few days, where you can take part in and you can sign up for and have a positive experience. Also, all of them involve a pilgrimage to the Holy Door. If I'm not mistaken, all of them do. So, these are some positive things that the people that perhaps are distracted by this other media can take a look at.
Maybe real quickly on the Holy Door, because we didn't cover that, and it's maybe not so well known. I mean, everybody here knows because they're reading our Catholic News Agency and our other websites frequently. But there's actually the 4 Holy Doors in the papal basilicas, but then there's a 5th Holy Door as well being opened.
Yeah, the 5th Holy Door will be open in a prison, which is very significant. I know it's something that the Pope holds dearly in his heart, to give the prisoners an opportunity to also take part in, also following up on this idea of including everyone in the Jubilee so everyone can have an opportunity. And it's funny, you know, because in the Old Testament, as I was saying, part of this was this setting the captives free. Was one of the things that would happen. And so you can think of that in so many ways. And we're talking in this present day and age with this opportunity is talking about a freedom of the heart, you know, setting ourselves free from the captivity of sin. That's why there's indulgence. That's why there's conversion, pilgrimage, etc.
Anita?
What? I think that we could think about this a Catholic media strategy, but I think that that's a part. But we also should be, everybody should be ambassador of the Jubilee with the person beside you. I have experienced in other moments in my life when there's a big celebration in St. Peter's, and someone gets by and said, "What's happening here?" Then, so that's the precise moment when it's a great opportunity for evangelization, and the great opportunity of transmitting something that is richer that maybe what you can find on other journals or newspapers that maybe don't transmit exactly what the Jubilee is or what is happening there. So I think that the one-to-one strategy is much better.
Understood. Anything to add, Frank?
Well, I do think that people, and we were laughing earlier about that news article, but I think broadly, people do understand, if they are familiar at all with the term, even not in the Catholic context of Jubilee, they understand it has to do with forgiveness, you know, forgiveness of debts, for prisoners being slaves in the Old Testament, right? Being freed, and I think, right? But I remember now, it must be 40 years ago, the American evangelical pastor Pat Robertson was running for president. I think one of his proposals was to have a jubilee where everybody's credit card debts will be every 50 years or something like that. There was so people do grasp this idea of forgiveness, and we remember in the extraordinary jubilee in 2015-16. Pope Francis made a number of gestures, one of which got a lot of attention when he made it easier for priests to lift the excommunication on people who had been involved in an abortion. And that got a lot of attention. But I think that it's a broad brush thing, but I think it does come across that there's an idea of forgiveness and mercy associated with this. I think that's so I think that line can be developed profitably, and people find that interesting. There's a moment where the slate is wiped.
Yeah, maybe also this idea of taking a step back and looking at your life and thinking about, okay, on which direction, which course am I on? And maybe pilgrimage helps there as well, right? To kind of leave the old things behind and start into something new. As for EWTN, I'm just want to say, like, we're doing Roman Nights to introduce this to a wider public, and of course many live transmissions and reportings have already happened but are also planned. And one, I mean, we already talked about this a little bit. One of the things that we're looking forward to is, of course, a new saint. Just a few days ago, we've been reporting also actually from this terrace, you see it over there, about 14 new saints that were welcomed into the church on the 20th of October. But one blessed was not welcomed, but we know it will be next year that he will be canonized. And it's a very famous one, namely Carlo Acutis, the saint for the digital age, as he's been also called. We don't know exactly when that will be, unless, Frank, you have any insider information that you would like to share.
Yeah, I was told it would be in the spring, but I don't have that directly from the source.
Neither do I.
So that was one of my big thoughts. Maybe in this panel we can get more information on this. But there will be a jubilee for the teenagers. There will be a jubilee for the youth. So some possibilities where it would make a lot of sense. But we speak about digital. What role does social media channels, websites, etc. play also in communicating? But not only communicating, but also for the participation in the jubilee.
Yeah, I mean, we're here and there's lots of people listening to us because of social media, because of media. But yeah, to live the Jubilee, there's so many media outlets that will be covering it, so that people, for example, that can't make it here to Rome for whatever reason, are able to also participate in it by following. But yeah, there's also, of course, the social media outlets for the Jubilee. We have a social media page, we have a website, we have an app, and there's other exciting things together with that. Where definitely check out the website where there's all the news and all the information for sure. But also talking about Blessed Carlo, I think it's important for the young people.
I think also that it's really important to take into account the role of influencers, and that it's not the official, let's say, the official communications, but they carry out a big work of evangelization. I know particularly a project that is led by a friend of mine. It's called The Church Listens to You. And they were really present at the Synod just because they, as Catholic influencers, they are evangelizing through social media. And I think that for the Jubilee, they will be great ambassadors, as I said before. They are great ambassadors transmitting transmitting faith, evangelizing, and also transmitting what happens here in Rome from their own perspective.
Do we have more questions, maybe? I'm looking back there. Yes.
I just want to ask you for some plans that the Jubilee is not only celebrated here in Rome, as you mentioned already in the digital strategy, as well as we in our countries. I'm, for example, from Germany. We have also a holy door in one of our pilgrim cities, so that I think the great impact on this Jubilee is that we can celebrate it in every country with the bishops of every place, diocese. And I would like to hear from you, what's your plans to bring it to all the countries, and not only through media, but to events, to happenings, that most of the bishops should start to prepare it in their diocese, so that not millions, even 30 millions come, but even more couldn't be, yeah? But so I would be very interested that we could bring this hope in the countries all over. It's a universal Jubilee.
Yeah, there's a couple of, sorry, I'll just jump right.
Yeah, I think that was really a question for you.
Yeah, there's a couple of concrete ways that people, like dioceses around the world, are able to bring the Jubilee to the faithful that aren't able to make the pilgrimage. One of those ways is that dioceses have been encouraged to celebrate the opening of the Jubilee with a special celebration, a mass at one of the main churches, a cathedral, namely. So that's one of the ways that they can get involved. There's also different Jubilee churches where you can still obtain the indulgence around the world. So each diocese appoints a Jubilee church, and you can pilgrimage to that church and receive the indulgence by following the indications. So yeah, it's really lovely because you can, even if you can't make it here, you can still receive the indulgence even and take part in that.
And I understand that you're also primarily, your marketing strategy is really also through the bishops' conferences, no? Where you encourage also to reach out to people to come to Rome, but also to celebrate the Jubilee locally.
Yeah, we're in constant communication with the various bishops' conferences around the world, and we have different reference, we're calling them, for each bishops' conference that we connect with. And yeah, so there's also, I wanted to say, an encouragement for the dioceses and the parishes in these dioceses to take initiative to perhaps organize a little retreat or some talk about hope, or things expand on this theme of hope. It's an opportunity for everyone to get involved and take initiative.
Thank you. Do we have maybe one more question or two more questions? Here in the front is somebody. Father John Paul.
That moves me very much about the opening up of a prison door. And the Holy Father did something like that in the Extraordinary Jubilee Year of Mercy in 2016. And so just as the local bishop has the authority to open holy doors, would that be something that the Holy Father will extend to local bishops to perhaps pick a prison, that a prison in his local church, the door would be opened, not just here in Rome, but also throughout the world, in prisons throughout the world?
That's a good question. I think to clarify something, so it's not holy doors that will be opening around the world. It'll be Jubilee Churches appointed. I just wanted to clarify because that is something that keeps coming up and people asking. But to be honest, I'm not too sure about exactly what the process behind that would be to open, well, probably not other doors, but to encourage the opportunity for persons to also celebrate the Jubilee in some way.
Thank you. Any more questions? Please. Here, also in the front. Here in the front.
Thank you for this conversation. I have a small question on ecumenism during the Jubilee. Back in June, Pope Francis had a delegation from the Orthodox Church, and he promised a lot of ecumenical efforts during this year. And we're having Easter where Catholics and Orthodox celebrate the same date. So I was curious about what some efforts are being taken on that regard for the unity between the churches. Thank you.
Maybe Frank, you also want to react to that?
I'm afraid I don't know concretely of what will be done, but this is an interesting point because, of course, this tradition goes back in some form to earlier periods where some of these splits that the church has experienced had not happened. And I think I wonder, too, about Protestant Christians, too, because, of course, especially the Pope has made a great effort, not only this Pope, but he certainly has continued efforts for Christian unity in that regard as well. But I don't know concretely of any. Do you?
Well, there is the Jubilee for Eastern Churches that will be celebrated. So that's one way that we're encouraging ecumenism. Yeah.
Eastern Orthodox churches or Eastern Catholic churches?
Eastern Catholic churches. Yeah.
But but still, it's
yeah, exactly. So, nonetheless, there are the major events, but there's also other events that are encouraged. So we are encouraging initiatives to be sent to us that we do very much listen to and encourage to other people as well to organize with us. So, of course, if anyone has initiatives regarding that, don't hesitate to contact the Dicastery so we can organize an event with regards to that.
So also the Dicastery is still taking in also suggestions or looking for opportunities how to do even more for the Jubilee.
Yeah, exactly. It's part of the bringing everyone together and letting everyone have an opportunity to celebrate even in their own way the Jubilee. But of course, yeah, we're very receptive to initiatives. We constantly talk about it in the office, receiving initiatives, and we do receive a lot from all over the world. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. It's good for people to get involved that way.
Thank you very much, and it is a wonderful night, and we were very blessed. October hasn't been like that with good weather, but I do feel it's not that warm anymore because it's almost November, and we have prepared a little refreshments also for afterwards. So maybe we can come to a final concluding round. Also, maybe I can start with you, Anita. Your personal hopes and prayers for the Jubilee next year.
Well, firstly, that I hope that this could be an important moment for us, not only Catholics, but Christians, to come together and pray together, and in that way be a sign to the world that we believe in something that is much greater than us, and that we can bring light to the world in that way as baptized, and to continue the great work of evangelization, sharing what we have received as a gift, that it's our faith, our baptism, and our call to make this world a better place.
Thank you. Rolando?
My personal hopes for the Jubilee, well, that people have the opportunity to take to heart this journey, to think of it as a pilgrimage, not only externally, that as they become literal pilgrims, that they use it as an opportunity to reflect on their own lives and to receive mercy through confession, through the indulgence and all that. And yeah, I think that's what I personally hope for people to be able to experience.
Thank you. Frank?
Well, I think, as I was saying earlier, I think it's an opportunity to raise awareness for those who come to learn much more about some of the church's traditions and teachings, and discover certain shrines and churches that they might not have seen ordinarily coming as tourists. I think for everyone, Catholics and non-Catholics too, beyond Rome, who don't necessarily come, it will also be an occasion for conveying certain understanding of teachings and practices, and so I think I think that will be good. And on a very mundane level, I think there's been a lot of the city of Rome has made a lot of improvements, and so let's hope that leaves a legacy of somewhat smoother traffic and life in Rome.
Thank you very much. I hope we'll continue our conversations. This is meant just as a starter for conversations, and to continue this. For that, we've prepared some refreshments here. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you also, all of you, for coming, for being with us tonight. And please join me in a round of applause also for panel and for the time they've taken. Thank you very much.